What's up, fellas? Ooh, excuse me. Today I am coming at you guys with another TALHM BOUT video. The one I did previously was on the Lords of Chaos movie. Just some conversation about it. It doesn't come out till February, but it's already pretty controversial even though it hasn't been released. But we're not talking about that shit today. On today's TALHM BOUT, we are talking about the grips. Not the fucking little Cheez-It balls that you get at Walmart. I'm talking about the grips. Now, my experiences with death grips, I first caught wind of them actually like near the end of 2011, because mostly in 2011 and the years prior, I was a big hip hop head and I wasn't into anything too extreme. So yeah, only the EP and Ex-Military were out at the time, and the only songs I liked off Ex-Military was Guillotine and Clink. Speaking of Ex-Military, we have this boy right here. Now, this is a bootleg. I've heard stories of people saying that they sold legit ones and like tapes at their earliest shows. But yeah, what was I saying before? Yeah. So this album was a little too extreme for me for my little brain at the time. Still got a little brain, but yeah, it was too abrasive, too chaotic. So then, fast forward a few years, this is when I got into metal, when I got into extreme metal, so my ears were conditioned enough for noisy shit. And one of my friends, it was a group of us, we were talking, and he brought up Death Grips, and I was like, oh, okay, I've heard of them before, I haven't really dived deep into them. And pretty much since from that point onward, I've been a huge Death Grips stan. But yeah, by the way, this is my favorite Death Grips album, is Ex-Military. The thing about Ex-Military, I think it has the most punk aesthetic. Like, something I want to bring up is, I'll just put, hold up, fellas. So I want to bring up something that Jello Biafra of the Dead Kennedys said in an interview a couple years ago. He said that punk is not strictly musical, it's mostly attitude. He said the music will change, but in order for it to be punk, it has to have that the punk ethos and punk aura. And I think probably Death Grips is the closest to modern punk. Besides, like, the bands that still make punk, like all the old bands like Descendants and Bad Religion and shit that still make albums. And there's new people who, they try to make punk rock. I mean, there's still an audience for punk rock. There's still a lot of people who listen to it. It just hasn't really hit the mainstream, except for Death Grips here. I guess I wouldn't say Death Grips are accessible, but I wouldn't say they're that obscure either. They're kind of hitting a sweet spot. But yeah, once my conditioned and hardened ears got to listen to it, I was immediately in love. Well, not immediately, because with probably literally every Death Grips release, I hated it at first. And it took a couple listens for it to click with me. So yeah, there's Ex-Military, my favorite. Now let's go to their second full length, which is The Money Store. This was, I think, like, they weren't at their biggest, but I think they were at their poppiest. Like, this album has already been talked to death, but some things I can say is that there's almost some kind of, like, cyberpunk edge. I don't know, songs like The Fever and Hacker specifically, but, and the beats are just so, like, they're so out there, but yet they're so cohesive and fit together and are really, really fucking good. The Money Store. Did I mention the Death Grips EP? The Death Grips EP came before Ex-Military, and that EP borrowed some songs from, or Ex-Military borrowed songs from the EP. Like, the EP had Tachyon, and I think I Want It, I Need It. And then after the Money Store, we got No Love Deep Web. I have yet to buy it on vinyl. I have it digitally. It's really fucking good. Actually, I've only recently like started liking No Love Deep Web. Before, I thought the instrumentation was really boring, but just like having like a more studied ear, No Love Deep Web I think is their most underrated album. It's really minimal, it's really stripped back, and MC Ride, the vocalist, I think he's at his like most madman-ish, if that's a word. But yeah, No Love Deep Web, it has the iconic dick on the front cover with No Love Deep Web written on it. But yeah, it's a great, great album. Then we have Government Plates. Government Plates I also own only on digital. But it's really, really electronic. Like, Ride barely has any words at all, or they just sample his voice or something. And wait, before I get onto that tangent, Death Grips are fucking sample gods. Like, I'm not sure how they come up with half of the shit they make, but it's so amazing. But Government Plates, I'd say that's underrated too. It's probably in my top 3 of Death Grips albums. I don't know, there's something about Government Plates that just really, really resonates with me. And Fashion Week, I don't remember when that came out exactly. Might have been after Fellas on the Moon, but I'm going to talk about it right now anyway. So Fashion Week was a purely instrumental mixtape. I got it off their website, I think, or I bought it from iTunes, I don't remember. It's good shit, nothing to cry home about, but is still a very good project. And then we got The Powers That Be. This comes with my least favorite Death Grips album, which is Fellas on the Moon. I mean, the Bjork samples kind of got old after a while, and it's like, it's abstract. I like abstract music, but I don't know, maybe I have to listen to it a few more times. But yeah, but the main reason why I bought this vinyl is for the old Jenny Death. Jenny Death is fucking amazing. I remember the hype for that shit. I was in senior year when fucking Jenny Death came out, and that's what that album makes me think of, is like post graduation, like doing whatever you want until I eventually like got a job and shit like that. I'm gonna stop going in order. I have a Year the Snitch CD, their most recent album of this video. I hated it at first, of course, but I didn't hate it. I just didn't get it at first. But eventually, it really, really clicked with me. Bottomless Pit was another one. Bottomless Pit used to be my least favorite Death Grips album, but that turned into like mid-tier. So I still like it. It's just there's way better albums. Steroids Mix is pretty good, kind of like Fashion Week. And The Interview 2016, that's like their instrumental trilogy. But, yeah, they really embody punk. Like, from their attitude, you know, like, being so antagonistic towards their fans. And like saying false release dates and shit like that, and just posting random shit on their Instagram, you know, like, you don't know how to interpret it. It's just, I think Death Grips is modern day punk. Or at least this would be what punks would listen to if we were still in the 80s. But yeah, I probably forgot a lot of shit. This is all off the cuff anyway, but yeah, Death Grips, they are definitely my favorite band that is started in this decade. I like them, like, obviously there's like metal bands that and other music genre bands that have been formed before this decade, but this decade specifically, the 2010s, I think the Death Grips are kings of it. But yeah, that's all I got. Feel free to like, share, subscribe, whatever you want, and stay noited.